the interesting thing that happens when you cut out things like sugar from your diet is your body starts to reject the unhealthy foods. No one told me this. I did not read this in any of my research. I just started realizing it when I lived in Moss. Okay, so I'm about to go to Aldi and get some groceries. And as you know, if you've been watching any of my videos, you know that I rave about spending $6,000 or less per year, with an exception of this year, which was some things I had to deal with. More like some things I chose to deal with. Anyways, but during my normal years, this is how you budget to keep your expenditures very low. The top expenditures, as I've said before, it is your transportation, your flight to get to your new location, food, housing, and then mobile bill. And then the kind of wild card after that is your health care, which I need a whole nother video for because it's tricky. It isn't tricky, and then it is tricky based on what your needs are. So right now we're focusing on food. I classically spend around $150 or less per month. It is very unusual if I go over that. This year I did in Mexico. The food was just so good. Mexicans know how to cook, and the food is very, 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 very affordable, which means my stomach was just like really wanting more. So yeah, that's one thing. And then I remember another year when I was really learning how to budget down, the first real year of doing this. The first real year being on the track of spending, at that time it was $4,000 for that year. The way that I learned how to do it, I had to learn how to do it. I remember doing the Google search, asking Google what were healthy foods that fill up the body or make the body feel filled. And through that Google search, it talked about fibers, eating high base fiber foods. Base does not feel like the right word, but having a high fiber diet. And it was talking about oats and different types of granolas, eggs for protein, things like this. I didn't know what ChatGPT was at that time, so I just started reading loads of websites written by, WebMD, I think even CDC at that time, anything that was from some kind of verifiable or credible source, and reading about what they were suggesting had high fiber foods, or what were they suggesting were high fiber foods. Anything that's natural, anything that's in its raw form, things like that. The things that were popping up were some of the ones that I had also mentioned. And then there was also a pattern of kind of healthy greens that gave the most vitamins. So I started looking up research about that. Oh, I also looked up fruit. What are the healthiest fruits to eat, the ones that will give the most benefit? And again, high fibered fruits were things like berries. All of this I did. It took, for me to get the pattern that I have now, it didn't happen overnight, and a lot of it did happen overnight, but the way that I eat now did not happen overnight. I had to really sit down with the calculator, my budget, understanding what my job was at that time, and knowing what income I was having and what I wasn't having, and then really basing my diet off of the income that was going to be coming in and being saved. It was highly strategic, very methodological, in my thought process. And I encourage you to do something similar if you're trying to get your food budget under control, especially in this economy where a crate of raspberries, where there are 23 or 24 raspberries, and that crate, at least in New York City, costs $7, $6.99. It's absurd. So I really do encourage you to sit down with like pen and paper and just write out what are essentials. What can your body not live without? And of course, there are going to be dietary restrictions for some. Like me, thankfully, I don't need peanuts to have a healthy diet, and I do not need white fish, codfish to have a healthy diet. So I don't have to worry about trying to find ways to put those into my diet. But for others who may have an egg allergy, you have to find another way of getting your protein, things like that. So that is what I did. I started asking and researching online, what can my body not live without? And therefore everything else got cut out, which meant sugar. I think the last week and a half to 2 weeks alone, this is probably the most sugar intake I have had in, oh God, I'd say about maybe 3 years since the Great British Bake Off sort of thing that I wanted to do, or that I tried. The year that I published my first book in 2021 to 22, 23, 24, 3 years. This is the most sugar I've had in 3 years, the last 2 weeks. All of this celebratory stuff going on. The interesting thing that happens when you cut out things like sugar from your diet is, and not just cutting out sugar from your diet, but also developing a healthy lifestyle, a healthy eating lifestyle, your body starts to reject the unhealthy foods. No one told me this. I did not read this in any of my research. I just started realizing it when I lived in Moscow, and then when I moved to Paris. My body was rejecting some of the foods that I would normally eat in America, and it was not taking it. And I was trying to understand if there was like a medical issue that I was going through, or like another kind of female reproductive issue that I was going through. It wasn't any of that. It was just food. This is how I learned about food. And that was really when I understood that what you put into your body matters. It really does matter. It became easier over time to eliminate the unhealthy foods because my body would not accept it. I would just feel sick. I would vomit. I would throw it up. I couldn't move for a few days. I would just feel kind of depressive in some ways, but had like a nice kind of social circle. So it took a while before I could establish the pattern that the poor food choices I was putting into my body was having a direct impact on my emotional state, my physical state of like nausea, and then like my mental health of just not feeling depressive all the time when I didn't eat it. Took a while for me to put it together. When I finally did, and then started reading more about, food psychology, or food and the way your body reacts to it on an emotional and mental kind of level, it all started coming together with research. So I encourage you to do that too if you're trying to understand how to become a healthy eater. I would say based off of that too, this is my personal belief. If your goal to become a healthy eater is solely based on, I want to be thin so I can look like X, Y, and Z, or I want to lose weight for the sole purpose of looking a certain way. If your goal is to just look a particular way based on some kind of, I'm assuming, societal pressure, that's not going to be a very effective, long-term, sustainable strategy for keeping weight off. I don't think looks should be any kind of motivator if you're trying to eat right. Your looks, who gives a freak? There are countries who value very large people, very large women, very large men. There are countries and cultures that value very thin, like the United States, which to me, I think there's a huge problem there. So I would not encourage you to do that. If you're trying to find strategies about developing a more healthy lifestyle, here's my number one strategy for what keeps me going on this healthy lifestyle. In addition to the fact that I just don't feel sick, because I do not feel sick and because my body is not doing anything weird like that, my medical bills also went down, which is another reason why I spend $6,000 or less. I am not dishing out loads of money on these insane hospital and doctor's bills because I don't need to go. My body is very healthy. I exercise. I try to stay in shape as much as possible. I like doing martial arts. It's one of the things that I find interesting. Other than that, I hate gyms, so I don't like doing it, but I try very hard to find ways at home to keep strength building exercises up, stuff like that. And I do that because I do not want to pay medical bills. I hate paying them. If you have ever been poor or broke and then slapped on with a medical bill that you had to take because you have anaphylactic shock to food, or you have a horrible slip and falling, break something or split something open, it is very difficult to pay those bills off. And you know what I'm talking about. If that applies to you, one way to do preventive measures is to remain as healthy as possible. The more you aid your body in the health, the more your body responds to your actions. So that would be one factor. The second factor that I would probably say, if this had applied to me, is if you have a family, kids, that would be a huge motivator for me. I would want to see my kids for as long as I can on this planet. And if you are putting in poor food into your body, most likely your body will respond by putting you into the hospital as you try to fight for your life. I've now seen what that looks like in my own family, and it is not a pretty thing. The poor food choices that you take into your body will respond. They will speak, and you will see the language of their communication in places like the emergency room when you're breathing erratically, trying to grasp the life that could have been there had you made better choices with the food that you put into your body. Things like that keep me from eating out all the time at the fast food restaurants and stuff like that. It doesn't mean that you have to eliminate it completely. I think what usually happens if you do put on a healthy lifestyle or you do practice eating healthy, your body begins to naturally reject it. Try it. Try it for a month and then immediately go to like your favorite fast food and try downing that for a day. I guarantee, it is a guarantee. If for 1 month you were eating healthy, you don't even need to do 1 month. Try it for a week to 2 weeks. If for a week to 2 weeks you were eating healthy, just pure, clean, healthy food, and then the very next day you down junk food, your body will respond. It will respond. You don't have to take my word for it. Challenge day. Try that. See what happens. And I guarantee your body will reject it. It will make you feel sick if you try to do it. Things like that to me are stronger motivators than something like, oh, I want to look like XYZ. Oh, I want to fit in XYZ. Oh, I want to keep up appearances for XYZ. These are not as strong. Now, the flip side of that coin would be one of the third reasons for what keeps me motivated to just eat healthy. I just said I want to fit in XYZ. What I mean is, if you are a healthy weight, but for some reason, like your doctors say you're a healthy weight, you're not overweight, but for some reason, your mind is saying you're not, you need to be thinner or whatever. To me, it is not, I don't think this is a very good way to navigate healthy eating by this desire of becoming even thinner. However, I do think that if you have clothing that fits you at a healthy weight, it is a very wise idea to maintain that healthy weight. And so for me, it is much cheaper for me to maintain the healthy weight that I am at so I can fit in my clothes and not buy new clothes every year. This first time I finally invested in warm clothes. It is 1 year old. It is having its 1 year anniversary. Finally understood that I should buy cashmere so that I can keep warm in these incredibly cold places. I will be having this for at least 10 years. At least. There are other clothing that I have here that are 10 years old. It was very warm. It kept me through the years. I keep it. I make sure that I wash it properly, hang it out properly, and it fits my body. I have no intention of putting unhealthy food that would make me larger than the clothing that I have, because that means I will have to buy a new wardrobe, and that is incredibly expensive. I keep what I can as much as I can. For example, this, made it myself about 3 years ago. Still have it. I still use it. Pants. I think one of the videos that I did over the last couple of days, I had explained that I got it at Goodwill, I think 2 years ago. Finally found a place where I could buy jeans affordable at an affordable price. I think it was $7. Very affordable for me. Still have them. No holes, nothing. It's so important to invest in good quality and to invest in a size that is comfortable so that you can keep it for as many years as possible. And that is why you could possibly use it as a motivator to keep a healthy, balanced diet so you fit into the same clothes every single year and you don't need to buy a whole new batch of clothing unless there's holes in it or it got lost or something. The amount of money I save by not buying clothes every single year. I still have clothing for summer that I've had for about 10, 15 years, just using it over and over again. The moment that it feels tight in some area, I know I am not doing something, which is probably exercising as much as I should be, or I moved to a new environment and my schedule has changed. So I start being aware that I have to program a new healthy lifestyle into the environment that I have now moved into so that I can reduce whatever it was that has made me bloat and then move on with the rest of my life so I do not have to buy new clothes. That would be the third thing. So all of that in terms of having a healthy diet, it makes a difference with the bank account. It makes a difference in two ways. You don't go to the doctor as often, or if you go to the doctor as often just for checkups, you are not dishing out money because you have to have X, Y, and Z procedure with X, Y, and Z medications, etc., etc. And two, your food bill is significantly reduced when you focus on high fiber foods and you eat that regularly throughout the day. The appetite decreases. The amount of space that you're filling up in your body, it just feels very full, and it helps to balance the book for your bank. It's the number one thing that keeps my food bill low. There's no other way to say it. It is hard. I know it's hard. It is really hard to eat healthy. We've been fed like the narrative that eating healthy comes at a very huge expenditure. For me, $150 or less a month. And I make that work in almost every single region that I live in across the world. But it didn't happen overnight. The desire to want to eat healthy happened overnight. Like I said before, I had a scare. I had a medical scare. My doctors thought I was ill. I changed literally overnight. That's all I need to hear, is that there's something seriously wrong. I changed overnight. Or at least I started the change overnight. That's a little bit more accurate. And by that I mean I threw out anything that wasn't healthy in my refrigerator at the time. I had a small refrigerator. And then I invested in fresh produce. Didn't want to spend the time manually chewing each and every one of the fresh produce that I had bought. I had things like cabbage and green beans and broccoli and every single green you can think of. Um, well, cauliflower, that's not really green, but anything that you can think of that was healthy, I bought it. And then I shoved it in a blender so I could blend all of it up together, shove it in a water bottle, and then I would refrigerate these bottles up to, I think, like 4 days, and then would just drink it so I could get all the nutrients in one go. And it was beyond effective for the first 2 days. Like, my body changed overnight. I had all this energy. That was really what was encouraging, to see the physical change of my body in one day. And it responded very, very positively, but I could not keep that up. That stuff tasted so gross. I had not a rhyme or reason. And I just made those mixtures. It was just, if it's healthy, if it came out of the earth or off of a tree, it was going in the blender, and then I was going to swallow it with some water and, good to go. So the way that I eat now, that did not happen overnight. The pattern that I have now didn't happen overnight, but the desire to change, yes, that did happen overnight. But it is not easy. It is not an easy task. So I'm with you if you're one of the people who, say, I don't know how to do it because it's hard. I don't think that is selfish, ignorant, complaining. What are other words I've heard in this dialogue? I don't think it's negative. I think it's a very realistic understanding of what you believe your capabilities are, which is why I said again earlier, if your desire to see your body in a new light or feel your body in a new light comes from something that's superficial, you're making it even more difficult to enact those changes. You need a powerful reason to change. You need a powerful reason to change the way that you approach the diet, that you approach your food. Me, it was money. It was money and my health. That was it. When the doctors gave me that information, health came. And then when I was trying to research ways that I could afford it, because I believed that didn't matter how much money I was going to spend. If my body is dead, then I wouldn't be spending anything. So I had to figure that out and then realize it was cheaper, significantly cheaper, to have a healthy diet than it was to do what I was doing before. So for me, those are my two motivators: diet and money. And then when I realized that even with those changes, I was still kind of putting on weird weight during odd times. Some of that was medical reasons, but the majority of it was because I had stopped doing the type of exercises I was doing well before, especially when I was in college and stuff like that. I had just stopped and was doing the bare minimum. So now I had a healthy diet, but I was still taking in more, let me make sure I say this properly. I was taking in more calories than I was burning during the day. And that too is not good. Your muscles need to be developed. And to kind of travel the way that I do, you really want strong muscles. So I had to change that up too. And I am still learning how to change it up. Like I said, or no, I haven't said this yet. I will be saying this in the future, another video that I made earlier today, which will be airing in a few days, I think. But in that video, I will be saying that I just lost my train of thought. Oh, I will be saying that I have to make a new schedule so I can maximize the days that I have here. I have 90 days guaranteed to me, and I am hoping to stay longer based upon how I like it. But that means that I have to find a way to schedule in exercise routines, really kind of working on building up some bodily muscle strength in areas that I notice have weakened, and I don't like that at all. But again, that was step by step. Don't try to change everything. If you are serious about trying to get a better diet, don't try to change everything in one day. Do one thing. Focus on one healthy thing. It could be something really drastic, like cut out all sugar, or it can be something that's a bit more easy, I think, which is increase the water. Full-grown adults, you should be drinking 2 to 3 liters of water a day. Start with that. It's really hard to put food down your throat into your stomach if it's filled up with something else already. So fill it up with water, and then maybe start with some fibers. Figure out which fibers you can eat or that you can tolerate, and start increasing the amount of fibers that you take in on a day-to-day basis. I have no idea. Find different ways to do it. Talk to a healthcare professional, talk to a nutritionist. Or if you can't afford that, I didn't do it. I didn't talk to a nutritionist. I had planned on doing it, and then I realized I couldn't afford it with the healthcare that I had at the time. So I just started looking at nutritionist websites, and that was pretty helpful. I would find doctors that were quite reputable, that had a very high rating, and then I would go on their websites. Those are the doctors that I like, the ones that have a website and you see that they're actively engaged in their profession. I love those kind of doctors. So I would go on their website and I would read about proper ways to have a better health, better nutrition, a better diet, and stuff like that. So overall, from when I started to now, this journey is wow, it's almost been 10 years. What is it, 9? 2016, 2015, 2015, 2016, 2016. Yeah, so 8.5-ish years of doing this. And the bulk of it really started when I left the US. So I get it. It is hard. It is very hard. Do not give up. Do not beat yourself up. That's part of the giving up thing. Or on the course of giving up, don't beat yourself up. Do small rewards, tiny, small rewards, and do small changes, and you will be surprised. You will be surprised at how your body responds if you continue to do those small changes. Or if you're one of those, I just have to kind of dive in. Try what I did, 2 days of just clean eating, and I guarantee you, your body will respond. It's science. It is science. You cannot disprove science. I think we're still there at least, but it's science. So go for it. Dive right on in, or do tiny little increments, and let me know. Shove what it's been like. Try it for a day or 2 days, and then write me a note in the comments section. I'd love to see if it works, or if you're on that journey as well. So yeah, I am rooting for you. I am rooting for you as you find new ways to approach 2025, especially if it's on the kind of get out challenge and you're trying to be either an expat or a tourist outside of the US. I will be right there with you. Till then.